Now going to John Day, Oregon, where Joe Biggs and David Knight are reporting on the latest developments. We're going to go over what's happened, obviously, 3 days ago. This poor gentleman, LaVoy, got shot while jumping out of his car, saying, reportedly, don't shoot. There were questions about, did he almost run over an officer? But it looks like the officer kind of jumps in front of the car. Then they said that he looked like he went in his jacket. We've watched probably 20 times, and Richard's going to pop in, that it looks like he is doing something in his jacket or something. Regardless, the feds are in the wrong stealing the property. We don't know what really happened. It's a tragedy, but we're trying to find out. That's why David Knight's there with witnesses and others. Let's go to David Knight in Oregon. David, I see you've got somebody there to interview. Tell us the latest.
David Knight for InfoWars.com. We're here in John Day, Oregon. We came here mainly because I wanted to talk to this man. This is Tad Houpt. And he is the one who organized the meeting that Ammon Bundy and LaVoy Finicum and others were on their way to when they ran into the blockade. They were arrested. LaVoy was killed. What was really dangerous about this was that they had 400 people, and they had been going around in different locations talking to people about what they could do to stop what is going on. Now, in our backdrop here, what Tad has brought us up here to show us is the massive devastation of wildfires that happened this last summer. We're standing on his property, and he has pretty much lost everything. He's worked hard, set aside. This is his life savings. You can't insure a forest like this, a private forest, and this is the out-of-control, quote-unquote, management of the Forest Service.
David Knight, for radio listeners, it looks like Mount St. Helens just went off. It looks like a fire-breathing dragon just annihilated. I see black hills with just a few sprigs like Bastrop, and we had fires outside Austin. I mean, how bad is it for radio listeners?
Oh, it is absolutely devastating. Let him tell you a little bit about the devastation. We've been walking around here shooting some other video. We're going to upload it as a more detailed report. But he said when the NASA satellites were looking at this, he said it looked like it was a couple of nuclear explosions in terms of the heat that was released from this fire. Tell us a little bit about the actual fire itself.
This was actually two fires, and what happened is they piddled with these fires for 3 days. The U.S. Forest Service did. In fact, they were initially lightning strike fires, but they pulled people off both fires overnight, and these fires got away from what's happened. And then the wind came, a little bit of wind came up. Well, then these fires fed each other, and they created their own winds. And the one fire burned across the canyon here, it took out 7,000 or 8,000 acres in an hour. And what it did, it sucked another fire. The other fire was 14 miles away, and it sucked it in here. And by the time it got to my property here, it had winds that were exceeding 100 miles an hour.
And we talked about the backfires and, of course, the Hammonds.
David, you're about to be back in just a moment. I'll just fill him in. Okay, your Skype's breaking up. Hold just a moment until it stabilizes again. For those that don't know, the big fight in the West for the last 20, 30 years is the environmental groups that have taken over won't let them cut fire breaks on their own property or even on the towns of all these dead trees that are dead tender on the ground. So when fires get going and there's high winds, it just turns into an inferno, races across, and so people end up, getting permits and things to burn fire breaks. Well, if it then gets off their property and gets onto the feds, they won't come and help, and then they indict you and claim you're involved in arson. Okay, and of course, everybody else is doing controlled burns. They didn't get in trouble when they have their fires get out of control. This is part of fire mediation. So David Knight is back. David, please continue.
Yes, Alex, the point we're making was, as we were waiting, most of this area were backfires. And, of course, they sent the Hammond family to jail. They want to send them. We're going to go into Burns as soon as we're finished here. We want to get the backstory of what's going on here.
Awesome. Please continue then. You've got good Skype now.
Okay, good. What I wanted to say was they made a big deal out of 139 acres that were burned as a backburn, a control technique. But tell us about what happened here in terms of the backburns that were being set by the Forestry Service.
Well, I've fought fire for probably over 30 years off and on. The Forest Service is so out of control on their back burning. I mean, from here, from basically the front face of the Strawberry Mountain Range here up to Prairie City for a number of miles, that's all backburns. And they burnt homes even. You know, they're from their backburns gone wrong there.
So as we looked around at this, Tad was pointing out, he said, virtually all of this area around here, Alex, was burned in terms of backburns. So this was something that was set by the government itself, and yet for 139 acres where they were trying to protect their family, their private property, they got a little bit out of control. They're sending these people to jail for 5 years minimum. It's absolutely amazing.
So to be clear, you must do these fire breaks, and of course the government lets you do it here in Texas because the feds don't have much land. The state's like, yeah, we'll give you better insurance rates if you do. But when the feds do it, they're countermanding what was policy until 30 years ago, correct? I mean, this man's the expert, right, but I followed it. I mean, wasn't it the policy before, you know, to have folks ask them to do this? They would organize locals to work with the government to do it?
Wasn't it the policy before to have locals work with the government to do some controlled backburns like we saw happen with the him?
Well, they do what they call prescribed burning here a lot, you know, and that's not nothing to do with the forest fire. But, I mean, they get those prescribed burns they do always get away from them. They always burn more. They always kill more timber.
Now, let me tell you one of the things that Mr. Houpt told me, and he's an elected official here, so he's been going around with the Forest Service trying to get them to do better management. But let me give you an example because I think it's very telling. They have an arbitrary rule here in this particular county where they cannot cut a tree that is more than 21 inches in diameter, and that includes trees, Alex, that have burned. So these are dead trees, and they won't let them cut those down. Now, eventually, they're going to fall down, and they're going to become more fuel. And as we
exactly. They won't let them sell the resource. That's incredible.
Exactly. So what they're doing is, instead of allowing these people to earn a living, and they've gone from a population of about 8,000 to about 3,000, is that correct here locally?
Just in labor. We have almost the same population as we had 40 years ago, but the labor force is less than half.
They're depopulating the workforce. Ask him overall what he thinks about the Bundys and where he thinks this is all going.
He wants to know what you think overall about what's happening with the Bundys and where this is all headed in terms of you see a resolution in sight? Or?
Well, I sure hope so. The people are fed up with what's going on. I mean, the arbitrary rules they're making, the illegal activities of the state police and the FBI. I mean, they literally murdered that fella coming to my meeting and illegally arrested him, hauled him out of the county, which is a constitutional violation of their rights. They were scared to death of them speaking at my meeting. And they weren't going to be the only speaker. I was going to be a speaker too. And the people need to know the truth about this.
Yeah.
Well, tell him he's talking to millions of people right now, David, and then you can come back, please, sir. Tell him, say what he wanted to say at the meeting now, and then ask him the key question. Did the majority of people support the Bundys in the area? Because it sounds like they did.
He wants to know, you're speaking to millions of people now, so here's an opportunity for you not to just talk to 400 people, but to millions of people. Tell us what you wanted to tell them at the meeting. Of course, you have to condense it because we have a limited amount of time. And were most of the people there supportive of what the Bundys were telling them? Were they concerned about what's happening?
Well, at the meeting, we were going to explain to people what their constitutional rights were. And we have the people have all the power and authority, all of it, 100%. Government doesn't have it. When we have the authority, if government isn't doing what we want them to do, to remove that government. And if that's what it's going to take, I mean, it's evident that the government's scared to death with the people are going to understand what their rights are.
And I would also add, Alex, as we were standing here talking to Mr. Houpt, he pointed to these mountains and he goes, this is the largest source of chromium in the world. And, of course, there's uranium here. There's all these mineral rights that are beneath the surface. Once they remove the ranchers, once they remove the mining rights of people, once they remove the loggers.
That's what they do all over the world.
We've seen what happens. We've seen what Harry Reid has been able to do with this. We've seen what John McCain's been able to do with this out in Arizona. They sell it to a large foreign corporation. They sell them surface rights, or they sell them the rights to the minerals, the copper, in the particular case of Arizona. That is the end game, is to lock everybody out.
Absolutely.
To destroy this, not to preserve it as a recreational area, as many of the environmentalists or the people in the cities think this is going to happen. This is deliberate mismanagement. They would rather burn this place down
That's right.
and burn these people out to clear the people who have
David, you're right.
rights.
You're absolutely right. That's the globalist plan. That's what we exposed in America Destroyed by Design, the film. It's free online, folks. Watch it. My first film, 1997. Let's let him for a few minutes here, and then because this is important. I'm glad you did this. This is great. I want to expand, though, because you're there, find out what the latest with this group saying they're going to stay there and die. I don't want a new Waco. I don't know what's going on with that, and you and Biggs ahead of our next guest coming on. But ask him what else he wanted to impart mainly at that meeting that he didn't, that he wasn't able to do.
All right. Alex wants to know, what else would you have told people at that meeting? What would you tell them to do? What was the plan of action?
Well, we were going to just show the people what their options, what options we have on dealing with the corruption in our local, state, and federal government here. It's not just the federal government. The Oregon state government is just as bad or worse. And that's what this was to be an informative meeting because a lot of people don't know what their rights are. And I mean, they've been dumbed down, they've been beat over the head, on, oh, you can't do that because that's the state government, or you can't do that because it's the federal government. And that's not the truth.
You said your mother lost her claim, her rights to what she was doing because she filed paperwork one day late.
But she'd actually never filed it a day late. And that's what they said, but they changed the rule, and we were later told by a BLM official that it was specifically to get rid of that mining claim, get it off the books, because it was the oldest perpetually held mining claim in the state of Oregon.
Sure. What they do is they put it into a non-legal process, have you sign into the process, and then when they say you didn't do it right, they take your right contractually. You're absolutely right. I want to come back. Local representative there in the local government talking about the out-of-control federal government and the types of activities that they're engaged in. Finishing up, David Knight.
Yes, Alex, I wanted Tad Houpt to talk about the fact that we've heard from a lot of state officials, heard from the FBI. These are dangerous people. The community was afraid of them. They had 400 people who were gathered here to talk to them. I don't think they were afraid. I want him to talk to you about the character of the people that he knew. And, of course, there's different people that are there.
Sure. What's his dead reckoning on the percentage in the county that supported the Bundys? Just dead reckoning.
What's your dead reckoning on the percentage of the people who supported the Bundys?
In the county.
Oh,
in
the county?
Yeah, around here.
I'd say 80%, 80 to 90%.
Wow.
Talk a little bit about what you thought of them personally, and were you afraid of them?
Absolutely not afraid of them. They were great people. I associated with Ryan Payne. He's a patriot. And then other militia people there, they were good, honest, hardworking people that loved their country, loved their neighbors and friends. And they've had a great injustice done against them, and we can't stop, supporting them. And we need to push on. And these people that murdered the one fellow there, he was a great guy, and he had better personality and character than the guys that shot him. It's known here in Eastern Oregon that our state police is very militant-like and almost Gestapo style. And I mean, we've had lots of problems in the past in this county with the state police. And I doubt the FBI is much better from seeing their actions.
Well, I know this. It seems like in rural areas now, around federal land is where they're really mean. I've never seen such mean park rangers as at Big Bend towards citizens. And then in other rural areas, it seems like they think the locals are their property because they've got 90% of the land. So just amazing. Do an in-depth HD interview with this guy for the Nightly News. Obviously, David, great job. Be safe. Glad you guys are coming back tomorrow. We're going to come back, but absolutely, it looks like they killed this guy in cold blood. Needs to be an investigation. That's why I got mad at the Bundys, because I knew they were being set up, folks. But we need to support land rights movements in this country. I got mad because I love those people. David Knight was there and almost got killed in Nevada, standing up for the First Amendment. He knows. I mean, but it makes me mad to see him set up.